Welcome everybody. What we're going to do in this video is pit the Hilleberg Enan against the Durston X Mid 1P solid inner. Hilleberg Enan is easier to say than Durston X Mid 1P solid inner. The first thing to note is there is a length difference. The first thing is the poles are packed in there. So if we take the poles out, and now the difference isn't, quite as much. And if we take a look at this pack here, which happens to be a Gregory, then the Hilberg, does fit lengthwise in the top there. It's quite a big pack, but it does fit lengthwise in there. Obviously, we know that's going to fit. This is obviously much. This has a much bigger girth. Dan, this has a much bigger girth than this one does. But if you wanted to, to be honest, this is pretty solid and substantial too. All right, let's try and keep it sensible, Tony. So weight wise, there's really not very much in these. This in its stuff sack is just under 1 kilogram. It's about 950 grams. I'll put some weights on the screen, but it's about 950. This one with the poles is about 1 kilogram and about 30 grams or something like that. Basically, the Enan with the pole, forget tent pegs, the Enan with poles, which you obviously need for it, and the X Mid is less than 100 grams. If you always use walking poles, then the Durston is, less than 100 grams lighter than the Hilberg. If you don't use walking poles, you don't need walking poles for the Enan, and then obviously you're adding the weight of walking poles, but we'll sidestep that argument because I use walking pole shelters all the time. I'm just saying, for those of you who like try and, bring that topic up, which is the easiest to pitch. So we'll go Enan first. You can also get from Durston, poles, especially for the Durston. So if you don't have walking poles and you don't want to carry walking poles, then you can get 2 custom poles that Durston produces to go with it. But then you've increased the weight of your shelter by about 200 grams, which then makes it, heavier than the Enan. So obviously the first thing to do with the Enan is to get that pole set up. Just a little side note, Enan users, I've never done this before, never needed to do this before, but if you want to get your shelter a bit more compact, then this rod on the Enan, it does come out. It's fiddly, a little bit fiddly, so it does come out of there. You kind of got to push it back in there. It doesn't matter which side, this material is. And then you kind of got to get it back in that little sleeve there. So it's not the easy, oh, and don't lose the rubber bung on the end. That's, realistically, I don't think you need to have to do this. And then it goes in there. It flexes enough to go in, it does, oh. Hang on. Oh no, it goes that way. It's okay. I thought we'd messed up Chris Townsend's shelter. Oh yeah, a shout out to Chris Townsend because this is his shelter. So check out his blog posts and his websites and TGO, and that's pretty much got that in there. Right, so we put that peg in, and then you kind of make sure that that's kind of there. That's there. I've only put the pegs in very temporarily for the moment. So then you get your pole. You got to get your pole and you got to put your pole in your hole. I do like Hilleberg. I do like Hilleberg quality. Right, so just remember when you're threading the pole through, you got to thread it, you know, so nothing gets undone. And of course another another little tip for you before you start making sure everything is up, just make sure that your line here and here aren't caught up. That's even a little tip that I said in my last video, I think. Forgetting my own tips. Once you make sure that your lines are secure, then that goes in there. Pull that tight. Just make sure that's loose there. So far we've used 4 pegs. Let's see how many more pegs we need. I wonder where this is going to go. So you need 1 peg at the back, 1 peg at the side, 1 peg there, and would you believe it, 1 peg here. We've used a total of 8. Right, a few points that I will make. I know obviously they're trying to save weight. Just having, you know, this type of ring here and no way of adjusting things, I must admit I don't like. I do think that it would be better with, you know, some adjustment, you know, a line lock or something like that that you can just adjust things with. I just think it would make, because if you had a stone, you know, if you had a stone or something right there, you know, right here there's a stone. There isn't a stone obviously because it's a field, but you know, if there was a stone there, then you know it really does limit what you can do. So I think one takeaway from this shelter is just make sure that you've got a little bit of guy line with you, so that if you need to and know how to do some, you know, some knots that you can adjust. So I will admit that's not a great, you know, I think it would be better if you could adjust those. I don't really know why they've done it like that. I mean, like I said, you'd only be adding, you know, 20 or 30 grams. Right, now we're going to set up the Durston. Done? You better look away now because I know you'll be watching. Poor bugger. Right, so take it out, put your bag somewhere safe. Right, so let's peg the rear out. We've got to find the rear first. It's the what is the back? That's the back. Right, so I think that's a back, and oh, it's quite big. Oh, it's gonna we're gonna have to go over there a bit, Lassie. Okay. Lassie, we said it's quite big. Shh! They didn't hear that. So we're gonna put that there. They said something, I didn't really understand what they were talking about, to be honest, but they said something about you take that corner and you take that corner and then that's the middle, but Dan, you haven't put this in the middle, so I can't, so that, I don't know how that works. So anyway, I've never done it that way anyway, so we'll sidestep. We'll just have to make sure that we've got a rectangle by using the Mark 1 eyeball. Right, okay, let's have a look. So, you know, what kind of look? I don't think that's quite a rectangle, is it? We need to bring it more that way a bit. Not much though. Okay, that's probably more like a rectangle now, give or take a bit. Okay, so we've done that. So far we've used 4 poles. So what you can do is just mind your feet. Is you can put your pole down inside. We all like putting our pole inside. All right, so you got to get your height. So obviously know beforehand, which I don't. Right, then you've got to make sure you get your pole tip in that metal thing. It always makes me a little bit nervous, that. You then have to come around this side and then make sure that it's in there. You've really got to make sure that pole tip is in that metal thing. Yeah, I think they're a bit high because it's got it, so you could put it at that height, but to be fair, I think that's too high. Now, to be fair, they do say that you don't have to adjust your poles, but I must admit, it's just what I've always done. And I know the Durston lovers out there, they're going to say, oh, you don't have to do it like that. You know, it's just how I do it. Sure, you don't have to, you know, take them out, but it just gives me confidence that I know that I've got them in the right place. You know, I think that's a personal thing, really. I don't think we can tension that one anymore. So far we've used 4 pegs. We want one in the door there, one on this line, we want one here, tightens that up, one there, and when you don't trip over that one, then you need another load of pegs. So we've got one there. Oh, then we need another one. I forgot this one. And then we need another one here on this door. And then we need one more down here. It kind of seems that any weight benefit you gain from it, you kind of lose, because when you've got to take your trekking poles, don't say that because you take trekking poles for your trekking pole tents. That seems quite hard work. And then one in there, maybe not. All right, so how many pegs did that take? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So, you know, admittedly, you don't need to use all 14 pegs.
I think in quite breezy weather, you are going to need most of those, because you've got some down the bottom to stop the hemline at the bottom flapping, and then you've got 2 that hold the poles quite tight, and then the 2 middle ones, so you do need most of them.
It just seems harder work, you know. I think for ease of pitching, bearing in mind I'm more used to the Hilleberg Enan, I still think the Hilleberg Enan is easier. Once you open the door, then the one vent that you get, well, actually the 2 vents that you get, you immediately lose, although admittedly you've got the door open. All right, so that's with the door open like that. If you take that peg out, you know, you can open the door fully. So you know, these doors you can either open completely fully, or you could have, you know, half open. Down here you've got this little loop thing here which you could put your pole around. I can't even move the pole, everything's so tight now. Once you're inside here, you can do this door up. For me, as a right arm sleeper, everything in here is kind of, for me, backwards. I wish the pole was, you need to do a right-handed sleeping design, Dan, and somehow this panel here, which admittedly I probably haven't got in the best place there, but I can't do anything if I'm sleeping in camp and I want to cook or something, and I got all this white stuff, you know, in the way, which is a little bit inconvenient. If I scoot over this side and I say want to, you know, I want to lie this side, because this is the side that I lie on, and I want to do some cooking in the door. I'm being strangled by this, and I've got this door, you know, if the wind was very bad, I've only got this very small space, or right-handed leaning people like me, I have to say, if the door is done up, it's quite inconvenient. I think you'd have to sort of scoot down quite a bit and then do your cooking, well, almost there, because there really isn't very much safe room for cooking. This was something that Chris Townsend was saying. How do people, you know, that use this, and I'm not, you know, they think, oh, he's deliberately doing that because he likes Hilberg and he likes MLD. How can I safely cook undercover, you know, being a right-handed person? Because it's really close to that. I'd be quite nervous. I know this isn't your usual, you know, comparison video, but we never do that anyway. There's no point in watching this channel if that's what you're expecting. It's just really not convenient. No, obviously you could, and I have seen people, this is dropped down again, and I noticed this last time, that this just hangs down even when you do a top. Dan, is there a, because I'd like to get it right. I'd like to get it right, and I know Dan's going to be watching this. So, how do I keep that rolled up? and Dan, I asked you because you said something about moving poles or something, and I know you weren't talking about the European country. I don't understand what you were talking about moving, angling the poles to get more room. I have seen people, you know, cook, you know, with their feet sticking out. That's what people seem to do. And then I get, you know, then you could cook, because this is the vestibule. This little bit here, it's just a weird tent. I mean, I just don't. I'm not picking on it, Dan. It's I think it's just one of those things that some people really like this thing, and some people just don't get it. And I think I'm one of those that just doesn't get it. But we're trying. We're trying. Well, we're very, very trying. You know, I've got this vestibule space over here, but it's like it's over there, and I don't quite get that. So I know, because people say it's huge vestibules, and you know, to be fair, when it's done up, they are big, but are they useful? Well, yes, I mean, obviously to some people they are, you know, because that's why it's so popular, Tony. Let's do the door up. My normal lying position would be like this. So you might just about get away with a cooker there. I think I did in my last video, to be fair, you know, but I think this side seems to be a bit bigger than that corner there. So maybe it's just how it's pitched, I don't know. But that, are they supposed to be exactly the same? Are they supposed to be the same side? Because this does seem to be this side here, without measuring it. I don't think that's exactly scientific, Tony. But I have to say, going by a shoe length, that seems to have more room. So I would feel marginally more comfortable. Then you've got this in your face as well here. You could almost do with another tie thing down here, Dan, just to hold this up, unless there's some way of, you know, just preventing that from falling in my head. It's just in the way. You know, you could get away with your cooking there. You know, to be fair, you've got, there is room. I'm not really saying there isn't room. It's just, you know, you could put bits over there, but it's just out the way. And then obviously you've got stuff. And then obviously you've got the same you know, that side, so you can put your pack and your shoes. There's, you know, it's good lassie room. You know, lassie can fit over there. It's just you can't really do very much with it, I don't think. And to be fair, there's good headroom in here. You know, if you're a tall person, this probably is a pretty good shelter if you're tall. If you're a tall person, this is definitely, you know, definitely a worthy. And if you can work around the tent space that you have, you know, then it's not that bad, to be fair. You know, I can lie back here and, you know, I've got room here, and then there's that room there. It's obviously shorter because of the design, it's shorter there, and then, you know, it's longer over there. And the same here, obviously this side here is quite close to you, and then that one is a little bit longer because it's not a rectangular inner, it's a hexagonal, ogonal, whatever it's called, inner. If you leave the doors open, then, you know, you don't feel too closed in. I have to say, if you don't do the inner doors up and you leave them open, and there's no real reason to do them up really, then, you know, you have got room. Like I said, I think for me it's just awkward space. I'd rather have all my space, you know, in front. And for me, the most important space is this space around here, and this for me is very constricting because I like to have cooking and just stuff here. But again, it's a very personal thing. You know, if you can work around that, you know, then again, you know, you've got this pole. It's just a little bit awkward. I know, like I said, Dan was saying something about angling this pole. If you could angle that pole that way and it was still strong, then you wouldn't have the pole in the way. And if you could like angle that pole that way, I don't know whether the shelter would even stay up and how stable it would be with that type of angling. But then if you could do that, then you'd have like quite a lot of room in here then. And then if you could just put a rectangular ground sheeting, because you don't need an inner, well, not all the time. I know people like to go on about their inners and stuff, but you don't really need an inner, so you could actually have more room, you know, without the inner. Then you kind of got this walking pole right in your way. So if you want to do cooking here, you can kind of do it, you know, in the door there. But it is kind of, again, people manage. And then obviously when you do this up there, that one there, then it becomes quite, that's when it does become, you know, more constrictive in here. But like I said, really, I don't know why people, you know, go on about needing inners all the time. Yeah, I mean, you do your inner up, but it's, you know, it's okay. You know, you do your inner up, but then, you know, you are then suddenly, you know, when you're sitting up, you've got these sides. But then, you know, I agree, it's a solo tent, so, you know, it is what it is. You know, I mean, I sleep in tarps and bivvies and things. I'm just showing you. You know, you've seen pockets. I'm not going to bother showing you the pockets. Well, I'll just show you. There's one pocket up there. I don't think I've ever in my life used a tent pocket. So everyone says, we've got to have a pocket, we've got to have a pocket. Never used them. So I'm not interested in pockets. But this is the space, you know, that you have inside. It's okay. You know, it's a solo tent. You can't really expect miracles. If you've got stuff here like your stove or something that might blow away and it's a bit breezy, and then you open your door, you kind of just want to make sure that no wind just suddenly cuts everything, you know, down the valley, so you lose everything. So that's just something to bear in mind if you're like me and you put your cooker here rather than, you know, behind this pole here where the camera is. But I would find that, you know, very uncomfortable. I mean, I don't want to be sitting in a tent with my feet out, you know, like this and cooking. I mean, I want to be lying in bed and cooking. I'm a lazy fucker. So I don't want to be, I'm not sitting up to cook. I want to sit down. So that's not really convenient either inside the Hilleberg. And we've set up a cup of tea, because I have to say, even though I'll be using the X Mid next week, I think for making a cup of tea, and I feel more confident here. So straight away you can see that for me, a right-handed sleeper, I must admit, one thing I do wish that was different, I do wish this door just went around and down a little bit more. So I doubt Petra's going to be watching my video, but you know, it just would be better if it just went back another 6 inches would be quite nice. You know, just to, so again, it's not bumping into my head, because I do find I do the same as the Durston. So in that regard, they're similar. I do find I have to just scoot down a little bit, but here, you know, obviously the porch is just lucky that the door, you know, is that side. If they'd have put the door this side, it wouldn't have been so convenient. So I'm kind of lucky in that regard that they've made the door or this wall for right-handed people, because obviously if you're a left-handed person, then your stuff is there. But you could still put your cooker, I've still got it here, so even if you were lying that side, you still probably put your cooker there, and even if it's there and the wind is blowing, it's not, there's less chance of anything blowing away, you know, here with this setup. So, you know, to me, the porch layout, you know, I can put stuff back there, I've got room here, you know, Lassie can go in the port, you know, can go in there somewhere. Yeah, you haven't got that big area, you know, over there, but you've kind of got it here. I just prefer, for me, my space here. This is where I like my space. It's what I'm used to, you know, just there. This X-boil has warmed that water up very quickly. That's pretty efficient. That's quite a flame on that. You just need to be a bit cautious if you're using the bigger thing. I think for Dartmoor, I'll maybe use this, but I might use the smaller burner. I know some people, they say, you know, well, they like, I would say there's, I think the X Mid is taller, because of course you can make it a little bit higher and shorter with the tent pegs, the tent poles anyway. I will say, if you're a very, very tall person and you're not so fussy about your porch space, you know, if you're very tall, and like I said, you know, porch space is not so important, it's worth looking at. But if you're you know, if you're not Godzilla-like, if you're a mere mortal like me, I mean, price, the Durston is what, around about, well, by the time you've imported it to the UK, it's
less than £350.
Obviously I've borrowed this one from Chris. I borrowed this from a friend, Chris Townsend, and I borrowed that one from a friend, Chris, a different Chris. But as a living space, as an environment, I just prefer this. Yes, it might be a little bit smaller, it's a little bit lower, your head definitely touches the top, whereas it doesn't in that. I've got plenty of room in here, You know, so I've got all of that space down there. I've got all of this space here, and then I'm not sure what space I've got behind me, probably not much, so I'm probably right at the back, but you know, and then if you like pockets, a little pocket and a big pocket. Like I said, I never use pockets, but you've got pockets if you need your pocket. I can put my stuff here, and it's just a hand, and I can have the door open. It's quite breezy, and nothing's going to blow away, nothing's going to happen to it. I don't have to worry about anything. And for me, it's just the experience of the shelter. So this shelter's what, £750 and available. You can get them at the moment, you can, and that's what, 400. So this is almost double the price. That is quite a lot. That you know, double, that's 100% more effectively, you know, upwards of 100% more. But given that this is effectively the same weight as that, this is definitely, for me, hands down better. I just feel more at home. But like I said, I'm going to give that a really good shot next week. When you have the door open in this, if you remember when you open the door in the Durston, you lose your ventilation. When you open the door in this, you still have two big vents, very big vents, at the foot and the tail end. And I have heard people say that they don't think the vents are very good in this. I don't quite get that, because they're huge triangular vents at the end. So I don't really understand how the vents aren't very good. Oh, Jesus, that was... I needed that cup of tea. This YouTubing business is hard work. The ground sheets feels pretty strong in this as well. You definitely don't need a footprint under that one. The ground sheet in the Durston is definitely a lighter weight ground sheet than in the Hilleberg. This entire panel is mesh. That whole panel is mesh. That is one big vent. And then you come around and that whole panel here as well is mesh. That whole panel is a vent. What you have is this. And it is a little bit fiddly. I will admit it is a little bit fiddly. But you have this material thing here, and this little clip here. So if it was raining and you didn't want the rain to get at you, then you can put this panel here and clip it down here. But if it's not raining, you can unclip that panel, and this material you just move out the way, just stuff it up there or something. Like I said, it's a bit fiddly, but you know, then you have one huge vent. You definitely do need to, if it's very, very heavy rain, and wind blown, if it's just rain coming down, the rain won't get to you. But if it's a very, very heavy, if it's very heavy rain and it's wind blown, then you do need to do up the tail end vent. But then you've still got the other, you've still got the other end open. And you might find, if you've got a pack, leave the vent open, don't put that there, and just put your pack around there just to give a little bit of protection to the inside, and then you've still got airflow coming around the pack. It's a very, very decent venting system. It's very clever. I don't know how they came up with that idea, but I think that's a very good, I think it's a very good venting system. And obviously I prefer my tarps and my other things, but as a tent goes, this Enan is by far my favourite from what I've seen, which isn't very many to be fair. I just show you the vents on the Durston. You would have seen these. You've seen a million. Anyone who's watching this has seen a million Durston videos anyway. But you know, obviously you can just, you have that vent there, and then you have the same over here. And then obviously if the weather's bad, then you can do that Velcro up. Ventilation. Well, I think the Enan wins because you've got two big vents, front and back. You can open, close them. Bit fiddly, bit more fiddly than that, clearly, but really big vents. So I think 1 point for ventilation to the Enan. Porch space, Enan, easily for me. That's 2 points. Pegging points, well, that's 8 pegs, 14 pegs, 3 points now for that. No points for that. Ease of pitching, well, it's about the same. I think each will have its detractors and its supporters. Personally, I think the Enan is easier to pitch, so 4 points. 4 points for the Enan. Packability, they're both easily packable, so that's about the same. I think for headroom, we will give 1 point to the Durston for headroom, so 1 point there, so 1-4. Space inside, I think that's about the same. I don't think there's very much in it. You could argue there's maybe a bit more space because of the layout in that, you know, in the Durston to the, you know, to the Enan. I think that's a personal thing. You know, I'm going to give that a draw. You know, some will say there's more in that, you know, more because of the pole. So I kind of get where you're going on that. But, you know, I think the space goes out to the left on that. So you've got space, more space. When it's done up, you've got space to the left in that. So I think that's about a draw. There's not really isn't much in it. It's quite breezy. I mean, I've got the door done up on the Enan now, and there's a breeze. It's not strong. I don't have the weather station. 15 mile an hour. I mean, it's not more than that, I don't think. They're both holding up in it. You know, there's nothing really in that. I think in a big gusty thing, I think I prefer the Enan personally because it's just a little bit lower. I think the panels and everything, I think it's just going to catch less wind, because if the wind is coming from this direction, which it pretty much is behind me, then it's kind of catching like half of the Durston, isn't it? This whole panel there and that panel there is catching the wind. Whereas when the wind is coming here, it's kind of more this panel here. So you kind of could argue that the half over there, but you know, it's kind of more just catching that side there. So personally for wind, I'd probably say probably the Enan, but there's probably not really very much in that. Again, that's, you know, maybe 5-1 to the Enan, but I still think the Enan will stand up better to wind. I think it's a lower profile shelter. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this fun little video. It's just something a little bit different on these shelters. Thanks very much indeed if you did watch, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks very much. Take care. Goodbye. Oh fuck. So straight away, pardon me. I know it always sounds like I'm knocking it, and Dan, I'm not knocking it, okay? I think you've done a really, really good job. So congratulations to you. So I'm not knocking it, I'm not knocking it. You know, one person does that, you know, not a company, sets it up, does all that. Good on them is all I can say.